What if I told you that one of Hollywood's greatest legends lived a life so wild, it would make today's biggest stars look tame in comparison? Jackie Gleason wasn't just a comedic genius. He was a living, breathing roller coaster of excess, chaos, and scandal. From shocking affairs to a fortune squandered on parties, luxury cars, and high-stakes bets, his story is one you won't believe until you hear the details. But what truly went on behind the scenes, in the world of luxury, heartbreak, and betrayal, might just change the way you think about fame forever. Stick around, because the shocking truth about his rise, fall, and the untold financial secrets are about to be exposed. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Jackie's mother, now left to care for him alone, had to work even harder to support them. She juggled multiple jobs, while Jackie, often unsupervised, spent his days wandering the streets. But his life took a surprising turn when he was cast in a school play. For the first time, he felt alive on stage. His performance ignited a spark in him, and he realized that the stage could offer him a different future. It wasn't the only tragedy in his life, though. When Jackie was just 3 years old, his older brother Clement died from spinal meningitis, a loss that shook the family to its core. Jackie's mother, already afraid of losing another child, became overprotective, keeping him isolated from the outside world. While other children played in the streets, Jackie sat alone, gazing out of a window, a loneliness that would later shape his comedic persona and signature expression of the poor soul. The heartache didn't stop there. At the age of 19, tragedy struck again. Jackie's mother developed a painful carbuncle on her neck, and unable to afford medical care, she asked Jackie to treat it at home. What followed was a deadly bacterial infection that claimed her life soon after. Jackie, now alone, had no family, no money, and no home. The Great Depression made survival even harder, but Jackie was determined to make it on his own terms. He refused to accept charity and instead found work wherever he could, from carnival barker to pool hall hustler. His early comedy performances, often riddled with failure, became the foundation of his future success. Through the pain of rejection and struggle, Jackie learned to turn his hardships into comedy, drawing laughter from audiences who saw his vulnerability mirrored in their own lives. His big break came when he landed a gig at Tiny's Chateau nightclub in Reading, Pennsylvania. The pay was minimal, but it was a foot in the door. His first performance was a disaster, with the audience mocking him for borrowing jokes from other comedians. But Jackie wasn't one to give up. The next night, he improvised, interacting with the audience, insulting hecklers, and turning his weight into part of his act. "I'm not fat, I'm just easy to see," he joked, and the crowd loved it. From that moment on, Jackie began to build a career that would take him from the small clubs to the grandest stages. In 1941, he caught the attention of Jack Warner, the head of Warner Brothers, who offered him a contract. While his movies, like Navy Blues and All Through the Night, didn't achieve major success, they provided valuable experience, and he shared the screen with Hollywood legends like Humphrey Bogart. However, Hollywood wasn't ready for a comedian like Jackie. He didn't fit the mold of the traditional leading man, and the industry struggled to figure out where to place him. That's when television came calling. By the early 1950s, Jackie had become a regular on Cavalcade of Stars, where his larger-than-life personality and quick wit made him a fan favorite. In 1951, CBS signed him to host The Jackie Gleason Show, which premiered in 1952 to massive success with a staggering 42% rating. It was this platform that would propel Jackie to superstardom, and it was here that audiences first saw the birth of his most iconic role, Ralph Kramden. Ralph Kramden, the bus driver with big dreams, was more than just a comedic character. He was a reflection of every man struggling to make it in life. When The Honeymooners became a standalone sitcom in 1955, it was a revelation. The show focused on Ralph's relationship with his wife Alice and his best friend Ed Norton. Unlike most sitcoms of the time, The Honeymooners didn't focus on children or secondary characters. It was the crux of the marriage between Ralph and Alice, a decision that made the show stand out in a crowded TV landscape. Ralph wasn't the perfect husband. He was short-tempered, impulsive, and often failed to live up to his own expectations. But despite his flaws, Ralph was relatable. He was deeply in love with Alice, and that made all the difference. The show became one of the most beloved sitcoms in TV history, ranking as the second most watched show in America, right behind I Love Lucy. However, fame is often fleeting, and The Honeymooners wasn't immune to the pressures of the television industry. Despite its immense popularity, the show faced tough competition from The Perry Como Show on NBC, and by 1956, ratings began to drop. But even as the television landscape shifted, Jackie Gleason's impact remained undeniable. He became not just a household name, but a symbol of perseverance and creativity in the face of adversity. Jackie's journey from the streets of Brooklyn to the heights of Hollywood and television success is a testament to his resilience. His story is one of transformation, not just as a performer, but as a person who turned his darkest moments into comedy that resonated with millions. Behind the scenes, however, things weren't always as seamless as they appeared on screen. Gleason had a unique approach to acting, one that involved little to no rehearsal. He believed in spontaneity, which gave the performances an air of authenticity. But this method sometimes led to challenges. Gleason often forgot his lines, prompting his co-stars, Audrey Meadows and Art Carney, to improvise with subtle glances and gestures to help him get back on track. Their teamwork was critical in keeping the show flowing smoothly, even in moments of chaos. Despite the camaraderie on screen, Gleason maintained a professional distance from his co-stars. His relationship with Carney, in particular, was strictly professional, and even his connection with Audrey Meadows had its rocky moments. At first, Gleason rejected Meadows for the role of Alice, feeling she looked too young. But Meadows, determined to prove herself, sent photos of herself looking more worn down, which ultimately earned her the part and cemented her place as one of TV's most beloved wives. Gleason's control over the Honeymooners extended far beyond his acting. He had a say in nearly every aspect of the show, including scripts, staging, and production, which often led to tensions with the writers and crew. His demand for perfection placed immense pressure on everyone involved, especially considering the show was filmed live with no room for retakes. A mistake had to be worked around, and some of Ralph's iconic mannerisms, such as patting his stomach, were actually just Gleason stalling when he forgot his lines. Despite the intense filming schedule, the show's quality never faltered, and its characters became cultural touchstones. Even after The Honeymooners ended, Gleason wasn't ready to let go of the characters he had brought to life. Ralph Kramden and his world made a comeback in sketches on The Jackie Gleason Show from 1966 to 1970, though these revivals never quite captured the magic of the original. In addition to his television work, Gleason ventured into music in 1952, releasing the album Music for Lovers Only. This soft, romantic album, which combined lush orchestration with jazz influences, was a game-changer. It wasn't flashy or loud, but it created an intimate, soothing atmosphere that resonated with listeners. Music for Lovers only spent an incredible 153 weeks in the Billboard Top 10, a record that still stands. Gleason wasn't a trained musician, but he had an innate ear for what sounded right. He was fascinated by the impact background music had on romantic movie scenes and sought to recreate that feeling in his albums. His approach was unconventional. Rather than composing music, he directed musicians and arrangers, often humming melodies to help them capture the mood he envisioned. His collaboration with jazz trumpeter Bobby Hackett became one of the key elements of his success. Hackett's warm trumpet playing added a distinct texture to Gleason's recordings. Gleason's albums became a staple in many households, offering music that didn't demand attention, but created an atmosphere, something people could enjoy quietly in the background of their lives. Gleason's work in the music industry proved that there was an audience for his unique vision, even in a rapidly changing musical landscape. Gleason's success wasn't confined to television and music alone. His presence extended to the big screen, where his role in The Hustler, 1961, showcased his ability to captivate audiences with a silent yet magnetic performance. Playing the role of Minnesota Fats, a pool hall legend, Gleason's performance was so convincing that audiences believed he had been playing pool his entire life. He had spent hours perfecting his skills for the role, ensuring his movements were authentic and believable. The film starred Paul Newman, but it was Gleason's quiet yet intense portrayal that stole the show. Critics were captivated by his performance, noting that Gleason's ability to convey so much with so little was a testament to his extraordinary talent. Behind his fame and fortune, Gleason's financial empire was a reflection of his savvy business sense. Fast forward to 1977, and Gleason took on a completely different character in Smokey and the Bandit. As the brash, overconfident Sheriff Buford T. Justice, Gleason brought his unique improvisational skills to the role, creating one of the most iconic comedic performances in film history. The film's success was staggering, earning $127 million at the box office on a mere $4.3 million budget, making it the second highest grossing film of the year, just behind Star Wars. Gleason's portrayal of Buford was a major part of that success. His classic lines like, "What we're dealing with here is a complete lack of respect for the law," and his hilarious interactions with his dim-witted son, Junior, ensured that the character became a fan favorite and cemented Gleason's reputation as one of the great comedic actors of his time. The Smokey and the Bandit trilogy went on to cement his legacy, with Gleason's combination of arrogance and comedic timing making Sheriff Buford T. Justice unforgettable. But while he was known for his comedic roles, Gleason was much more than just a funny man. In 1962, he took on a deeply personal project called Gigo, a film that he wrote, produced, and even composed the music for. The film was a departure from his usual larger-than-life roles, as it showcased Gleason in a more subdued and emotionally nuanced performance. He played a mute janitor living in the 1920s Paris, relying on gestures and facial expressions to convey his emotions. The film told the story of his character's friendship with a young girl named Nicole, the daughter of a prostitute, and the kindness he showed despite the town's mockery. Though Gigo wasn't a box office hit, and critics were divided on its sentimental nature, it revealed a different side of Gleason, one that was willing to take risks and challenge himself beyond comedy. Even legends like Gleason aren't immune to failure. In 1961, he launched a game show called You're in the Picture, a concept that seemed promising on paper, but quickly turned into one of the biggest missteps of his career. The show, which aired on the same night as John F. Kennedy's inauguration, had celebrity panelists sticking their heads through cutouts and guessing scenes or song lyrics. The problem? It was awkward, repetitive, and devoid of any real stakes. The audience was disengaged, and critics were ruthless, with Time magazine calling it the worst television show in the history of U.S. network television. Even Gleason knew it was a disaster. After the first episode, he decided to scrap the entire concept. In an unexpected move, he turned the next episode into a live apology. Walking onto the stage with nothing but a chair, a small table, and a coffee cup, Gleason openly admitted to the failure, joking that the show had been a catastrophe. His raw honesty and willingness to own the mistake transformed the situation. The apology became an instant hit with viewers, and even critics who had previously slammed "You're in the picture" praised Gleason for his self-deprecating humor. His monologue, filled with charm and wit, turned what was supposed to be a disastrous moment into one of the most memorable and endearing apologies in television history. However, the apology came at a price. One offhand joke Gleason made about his coffee cup being filled with chock full of led to serious fallout with one of the show's sponsors, Kellogg's. The company, known for its family-friendly image, was upset by the association with alcohol and decided to pull its sponsorship. This created a ripple effect, ultimately leading CBS to rethink the show entirely. It was a difficult moment for Gleason, but even in the face of such a setback, he handled it with grace and humor, proving that even in failure, he was able to command the audience's respect. But it wasn't just his work that reflected his excess. Away from the cameras, Gleason lived a life of indulgence. He was a regular at Toots Shore's bar in Manhattan, a haven where drinking was more than accepted. It was encouraged. One night, after losing a bet, he passed out at the bar, and instead of being roused, the staff simply let him lie there while patrons stepped over him, as though this was just another night in the life of Jackie Gleason. He lived in luxury, with extravagant parties that were so loud, hotels had to soundproof his suite. His $30,000 Rolls-Royce, custom painted in opal and burgundy, was just one of the many symbols of his wealth. His mansion, a $650,000 circular home called Round Rock, had Italian marble fireplaces, revolving pianos, and everything meant to impress. His tailor nicknamed him the best-dressed stout man, thanks to the countless custom suits he ordered, some costing thousands of dollars. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Despite his larger-than-life persona and massive success, Gleason's finances were a reflection of his reckless spending. He bet huge sums of money on things like golf holes and even lost $3,000 betting that Grace Kelly wouldn't marry Prince Rainier, the third of Monaco. His net worth peaked at an impressive $85 million, a fortune he built through a combination of successful TV shows, films, and savvy investments. He generously gave to charities, but his spending habits were infamous. His lavish lifestyle extended to his personal relationships as well. His marriage to Genevieve Halford, whom he married in 1936, was riddled with infidelities and constant separations. She was a devout Catholic, and though their marriage had fractured multiple times, it wasn't until 1970 that they finalized their divorce. What followed was an equally chaotic series of relationships. After divorcing Genevieve, he married Beverly McKittrick in 1970, but their marriage lasted just 5 years. Soon after, Gleason rekindled his relationship with Marilyn Taylor, the same woman who had been involved in his hospital scandal back in 1954. They eventually married in 1975, and Marilyn stayed with him until his death in 1987. The tumultuous nature of his personal life continued even outside of marriage, with affairs and complicated dynamics that mirrored the unpredictability of his career. One of the most explosive moments in his personal life came in 1954 when, recovering from a broken leg, his wife Genevieve visited him in the hospital only to find him in the company of Marilyn Taylor. The argument that followed echoed through the hospital, making it clear that their relationship was no longer salvageable. Despite his personal turmoil, Gleason's impact on Hollywood was undeniable. His work transcended his chaotic lifestyle. He had a deep understanding of both comedy and drama, a versatility that made him a beloved figure in entertainment. However, his excesses weren't confined to alcohol or parties. His business ventures were equally grandiose. Beyond his film and television success, he made strategic investments, though his primary focus remained on entertainment. While chasing your dreams, make sure to protect what you've built and be mindful of the long-term consequences of living large. Jackie Gleason's story, both a warning and a testament to success, shows the delicate balance between ambition and excess, and the fine line between living for the moment and securing your future. What a ride! Jackie Gleason's life was as wild as his comedy. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. More jaw-dropping stories coming soon.